morning, everybody, and welcome to TLC Live. I'm Andrea Gomez.
And I'm Orlando Sanchez.
Very, very busy things and a lot of things going on, not only in the rodeo, that we're still having rodeo in Houston and we're having so much fun, but who are not having a lot of fun is this Houston School District.
Houston Independent School District, and tell us why.
Well, so back in 2019, and we're gonna no,
2018.
but back
Oh,
in 2019, at the beginning of January, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, tweet announcing that TEA, the Texas Education Agency, need to take over of HISD because of financial problems and academics and etc., many things. But this December 28, 2018, the former, in that moment, it was the Harris County Treasurer, Mr. Big O, here on my left. He was the Harris County Treasurer, Orlando Sanchez, in December 28, 2018. So that was your last press conference before the end of the year and before the end of your administration. So we made a press conference, and something that it was supposed to be half an hour turns out that it was going to be 5 hours, police, a lot of people protesting, and also you got brutally attacked with water. It was not brutally, but it was with water. So many things been going on since 2000, at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, with Governor Abbott after a consequence of this press conference, of course, consequence of decades of bad administration in the HISD, he announced that TEA should take over of HISD. Since then, nothing have happened.
well, a lot has happened.
Well, but it didn't take off.
Yeah, December of 2018, I did hold a press conference in front of the Hattie Mae Administration Building, asking the governor once and for all to move on HISD because they were failing the taxpayers, they were failing the state of Texas, and most importantly, they were failing the students. We had a series of failing schools that had, for many years, received failing grades by the Texas Education Agency. And as the demographics of Houston were changing, there were students that were being shortchanged by the school district, and they were having, disruptions and fights at the school board meetings. They were having fights at their retreats. We had school board trustees being investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, known as the FBI, being indicted, some serving some serious time. The money was being squandered. And a week after we held a press conference, the governor tweeted that they were finally going to make a move. There has been a lot of activity since then.
But the TEA haven't taken over.
They hadn't because the Houston Independent School District filed a lawsuit
Correct.
that worked its way through the district courts, the Court of Appeals, ultimately to the Supreme Court, which a couple of weeks the Supreme Court said that the legislation was valid, was constitutional, and that the state of Texas Education Agency had a right to take over HISD, basically put it into kind of a receivership, if you will, like a bankrupt corporation.
Correct.
So that's where we are today, and I think Andrea's got some video clips.
And also, but last week, so we have on Wednesday, March 1st, the mayor of Houston, Sylvester Turner, announced that TEA it was going to take over HISD as soon as next week, which is this week. Haven't happened yet, but the possibility that is going to happen is like very high. So let's play first a clip that Channel 13, ABC 13.
Well, hang on before you do that. Let me just give some additional background.
Okay.
The legislation that allows the Texas Education Agency to step in and take over failing schools is nothing new. The TEA has taken over schools in the past, and it was authored by Harold Dutton, a state representative from Houston who's an African American. I'm not sure, but I think Sylvester Turner was in the Texas House of Representatives at the time. And so, this is a bill that, community members and representatives authored to try to improve the quality of education.
Giving a little bit of more background, as you just said, so since 1991, so in Texas, we have 1,024 school districts. Since 1991, 15 school districts have been taken over by TEA, some of them being closed for good or forever, some of them have been changing. But in 2015, the legislature changed. Before that, TEA has the power of take over for 2 years only. After 2015, now they can take over for more time after 2 years, depending on the situation, depend how everything is being in progress. So being saying that background on the situation that is being going on now in the HISD, we're going to play the edited video of a special that KTRK, Channel 13, ABC here in Houston did about everything that is going on in HISD and in education, and giving us a background and something. They put a little piece of what happened on the press conference in 2018 with Orlando Sanchez. So let's play that.
And we begin with a developing story, the possibility of a state takeover of the Houston Independent School District. It would mean the entire elected board and Superintendent Millard House could be replaced. Here's ABC 13's Elisa Rivas with how we got here.
In 2018, this HISD board meeting delved into chaos. A parent dragged out as trustees met that April to discuss handing over control of 10 schools to charters. Those schools had been placed on the TEA's improvement required list for the past 5 years. That meant a state takeover was possible.
Obviously, HISD is a failing school district.
No. At the end of 2018, the Harris County treasurer at the time called for just that, and it didn't go well.
Everybody's in agreement. Shame! Shame! Shame!
A protester dousing his head with water. In 2019, ABC 13 obtained video showing infighting within the school board at a retreat.
People call me black, they call me.
Then Superintendent Dr. Grenita Lathan appeared frustrated. Keep in mind, that same year, 21 HISD schools received F grades from the state.
I can't spend every day, and that's what it's turned into, is stopping everything to cater to trustees when we need to be focusing on what happens for the children.
Governor Greg Abbott called the HISD board a joke. And later that year, the TEA said a takeover was happening. The district successfully fought back, but then
Texas Education Agency against the Houston Independent School District.
The Texas Supreme Court cleared the way for the takeover at the beginning of this year.
Superintendent House addressed the possibility for the first time on Thursday, March 2nd, during a regularly scheduled board meeting. Interestingly, they were meeting to review students' academic progress, which is at the heart of the takeover. Statistics they showed indicated students are actually performing better than in years past.
I remain laser focused on fulfilling my duties as superintendent alongside our board of trustees to provide the best possible educational outcomes for all HISD students regardless. My team and I will continue to implement our community-informed strategic plan, which is delivering results.
While local focus remains on the near-term and long-term future of HISD and its leadership, statewide school safety remains a priority for legislators in Austin. Democrat State Representative Sean Thierry of Houston wants to expand the use of emergency alert systems in Texas classrooms.
That was only a piece of the half-an-hour show that they did explaining the whole situation. But I want to replay, because I cut a piece of also the 5 hours, the press conference that we held back in 2018 of the attack that you were victim that day.
And let me just say that this is a sad, it continues to be a sad day in Houston for not only the kids, the taxpayers, and the parents, and the future of the Texas economy. But it's a sad day in society when elected officials, taxpayers, cannot go to the public square and have a discussion about public education without being physically assaulted. And this is what's happened, and what happened back in 2018. You saw the school board meeting. You saw the school police dragging parents out forcefully. You saw the school board retreat. where the facilitator had to step in between the superintendent and trustees. You saw the attack on me. I hold a press conference, as Andrea said, was supposed to last 20 minutes, ended up being 4.5 hours. 11 Houston police cars had to be sent to the scene, and it continues. Now the mayor and several leaders want to continue to support the continuation of underperforming, and so this is where we are.
So I want to replay what happened that day.
Don't put your fucking hands on anybody. I'm not touching on anybody. No, get your fucking hands on me. That's assault by contact. You touch us. You're all touching me.
Wow.
So those are the liberal left won't allow you to have a discussion about how to improve public education, and we have a great guest today.
So exactly. So back then it was a different board.
Correct.
In HISD. Then we went to elections, and we have one of the board member that now it's elected. We have it here, and she was running for the position, and she is a mom, and she also has a big background in education, and also she wanted things to be changed because of all of the things that has been happening for decades in HISD. So now she is with us. She is Bridget Wade. She is the HISD District 7 Second Vice President, and she is a friend of TLC, a friend of Houston, and also she's trying to do and save the kids. But Bridget, thank you for being with us. We wanted you to give us the insight. You took office on January 2022. And now this has been going on. So, of course, back then it was a different board. Now it's a completely different board because there are new people trying to do good for the kids. It's only 2 people that's still in office from that former board.
Correct. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here on TLC, and I appreciate you all being interested in this very important topic. So, yes, that's true. I ran for the very reason that these things were still going on. The fact that our schools were still failing, even though it was different board members that were coming on, things behind the back room were still the same. There were lots of corruption going on with the landscaping contracts, money being siphoned out of the district, numerous things happening at the time. So I said, enough's enough, and it's time to stand up.
So, Bridget, after having been in government for 25 years and many of those years, 18 of those years in elective office, I'm always very skeptical of organizations such as Metro, such as the Independent School District, using taxpayer money to amplify and advertise how great they are. For example, Metro has had a series of homicides on many of their transit platforms, and Metro, of course, now is doing a commercial at public expense about how great and how safe they are. And now I see that Mr. Millard House at one of the recent board meetings has announced the great improvements at HISD. Are they improving? What's the status today?
So we see scores improving, but they are low relative to where they should be, period. I mean, Orlando, nothing's really changed since prior to COVID. It looks good because COVID numbers were so low that any increase looks like a good thing. But really what COVID did was mask decades of low performing outcomes for kids, period. We know that lack of reading skills, lack of curriculum that focused on phonics, things that the state knew or that were known but were not dealt with. And because of all those past sins, what I would say sins, we're dealing with the outcome of all that now.
Has
So
Commissioner Morath
we have
communicated with you or the board or the superintendent as to what might happen?
we do not know. We know that it is clearly something that's most likely going to happen, but uh, we have not been notified about anything in particular at this time. We don't know, but we know there's a strong likelihood that it will be. They have all the cards.
Bridget, it takes a village to change what has been going on for decades. I mean, it's
Hmm.
not just a
Hmm.
magic pill or a magic something or words or work that you can do in a year and change what has been in decades. Plus, it's only one person. You need to work as a team. So tell us what has been going on since you start in this position in January 2022 with pretty much the majority of a new board people. What have been changed? What did you guys been discussed? What has been the main issues that you guys are trying to change?
Well, we know most important thing is improving the student outcomes, and that comes with a lot of different uh, vehicles. Now, let me give you a little background. The state has been really trying to go towards a governance model that focuses on student outcomes. And with this model they're using, it is really, they're doing a lot of training for boards across the state. So along with these so-called, this past of state takeover, the TEA has gone in and said, look, we need to give better board training. We need to make the board members understand, and the superintendents and all the head of the chiefs of administration need to understand the protocols and the guardrails for achieving outcomes, and that there needs to be measurements and ability for us to uh, score the outcomes with measurable opportunities. So they're looking at it from, instead of just do you like something or not like something, what are the results? What are the measured results? So back to what your question was, the reason I state that is because it's really important for the state to do what they're doing to uh, keep the students in focus. So what's happened with our board is that we've gone through this governance training, and they've been trying to do this for a while. And during the process of former boards, the previous board, when all of the changeover was going on with Carranza leaving, the superintendent came, he saw the board was untenable. He left. Grenita Latham came in to be an interim superintendent, and then they hired Millard House. Well, that was controversial. There were issues that went on during that time that were, uh, Opens Meeting Act was violated. A lot of different things were going on. So the board had slipped the names of some of the possible candidates, and therefore they were left with only a smaller number of candidates to come in as our current superintendent. So this is where we stand, that we've got a board that doesn't want to always go through the governance model the way it should be. They're not buying in the way the state would like. They don't want to offer the opportunities that the state is willing to offer to help navigate. There've been bipartisan bills passed that gives school districts opportunities to take advantage of. And HISD has, and some of the trustees refused to do that. So um, I think this is a lot of the reason why the state has said, okay, enough's enough. We've given you opportunities. Uh, Scores are improving, but how much so? So I kind of think there's a lot of different factors working. Um, and that's all I can think about. That's all I know.
For many years, I had the opportunity to work with and get to know Gail Phelan, who was the president of the school of the teachers union here in Houston. I'm sure that Gail has retired, but it seems to me, and I attended both parochial private schools and public schools, that in public schools, particularly the unions, the teacher unions, resist any kind of accountability and testing to score children and how they're performing. Whereas in private schools, kids are constantly tested, constantly prepared for standardized examinations, constantly prepared for the ACT, the SAT. They're, the schools are always measuring their performance even against other schools. Why do teacher unions resist improving student outcomes?
That is a very good question. I think it's because the accountability, I get not being test focused. And I think that's where parents, as well as teachers unions and teachers, don't want their kids just being always to the test, taught to the test. And Orlando, back to your point, we lost a long time ago the building blocks and foundational skill set delayed. Then all of a sudden it was like, well, let's just keep testing to prove our point. So testing got a little bit out of hand. However, we know that measuring is important and it holds accountable. And people don't like, I think as a conservative, I don't love when my autonomy is being questioned. And so when I say that, I think if my autonomy's being questioned, then I am not able to do the job that I've been trained or passionate about doing. So I feel like we've got to, anyway, that was why I think there's this pushback against it. And I don't necessarily think it's the worst thing in the world for teachers to have their autonomy. I want that. We have to do it and give them the proper guidelines and proper vehicles in which to do it so the kids are actually gaining.
I've thought this through because I've listened to all the arguments. There are pitfalls for the state of Texas in taking over the school district. It is a massive school district. They're going to encounter substantial resistance, especially from the political side, because if everybody would abandon the political side and just focus, as you say, on the student, then I think we could all agree that we should welcome any help. I don't care where it comes from, to improve the outcome for children. But we've lost the focus. It's not the children. It's not preparing them. And by the way, last week we had Professor Stephen Kleinberg at Rice University, not a conservative by any stretch of the imagination, but a thoughtful man, and he offered this to us on the program. No child is going to be able to have good employment unless they're prepared for the 21st century economy, which is knowledge-based. Yep. No more agricultural work. No more skill sets, building roads with bricks. No more manufacturing because that's all moved overseas. That the 21st century economy and children that are expected to participate in that better have a damn good education. And so I don't understand when I see the mayor of Houston saying, Well, we lose local control. You've had local control, Mayor. You were in the state legislature.
Yep.
You saw Harold Dutton write the bill. You may have voted for it. You've been at the helm of the Houston City Council as mayor for 8 years, and never did I hear you say, we need to improve the quality of education in Houston so that our economy survives. And all of a sudden, Mayor Turner, you've decided that you're going to take the political position and the hell with the kids. Come on.
So I want to
Well,
ask you.
Orlando, you're right. And it's a jockeying position, Orlando. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's a jockeying position because it's a talking point. And that's exactly what he did. He said, I'm going to make this an issue because right now we don't have anything else to stand on. And so that's why he's so mad. And there are lots of reasons why Mayor all of a sudden got involved. He didn't care about this issue before. He only cared all of a sudden when he found out that it was basically when the Supreme Court put this back down to the lower courts. We knew right then that we lost all, and no one said anything about it until now. And all of a sudden, he's like, I need to find a way to make this a political statement and rally the base. And that's exactly what this is. It's a rally call.
I saw that press conference. You know, over the course of the last 10 years, the mayor never uttered a peep. Sheila Jackson Lee never uttered a peep. Boris Miles, member of the Texas legislature, never uttered a peep. Even my dear friend from the East End never uttered a peep. None of these legislators that I saw on the podium over there at Tranquil, I don't know what park downtown, but they had this massive press conference.
But it was all politicians giving this press conference.
None of them cared about the quality of education and the student suffering and the embarrassment that is that Phyllis Wheatley High School, that graduated one of the greatest congresswomen from Texas, Barbara Jordan, is now a failing school? Give me a break. Where have they been?
Right.
And the
Where
press
have they been?
conference, it was
And
just
they didn't care
politicians.
Just politicians, because they realize, wait, this is an opportunity for us to get our, like I said, rally the base, get the union base, let's get the Democrat base. And that's all it is. And they figured, let me take advantage of this. They haven't cared. We took on North Forest ISD, absorbed it into HISD, and they thought that was a good idea then. And we still haven't been, we haven't really been paid for it by the state either, that absorbing that district. So there are definitely some issues from the state side. But as far as I'm concerned, the district is too big. And the monopoly that it is, and it supports the union. It doesn't do what's good for the communities that all want to see impact and outcome for their kids or their communities. And every community, we know for a fact, has different situations, different challenges they face. And yet we're this huge district, the seventh largest in the nation, the largest in Texas, serving almost 200,000 students. We're losing families and children daily, abundantly. And so it tells you something. People are fed up and they're ready for the school system to meet the kids and give academic success. We don't care about the politics, and the Democrats only care when all of a sudden it's a good vehicle for them to use and it can work in their favor. And that's it.
Let me say this, and this is an observation, but I'll share it with you and for those watching. For years, I've said that conservatives in state capitals need to focus on urban issues and that they need to apply conservative principles to urban issues, not walk away from urban problems. And so the sooner Austin our leadership starts to address urban problems, the better off we're going to be. Now, let me tell you what the trends are because I can see them coming. Taxpayers aren't stupid. Lori Lightfoot got voted out of Chicago the other day because of the horrendous criminal activity that's going on in a town that doesn't allow guns, right? Of course, the liberals will blame it on guns kill. Now, if you look at Mayor Adams in New York City, just today or yesterday on the Hill was announcing that Democrats are losing control of urban areas. And here we have, a dysfunctional urban America that is sliding down this slippery slope. So my message is, conservatives, roll up your sleeves, apply conservative solutions to urban problems. Investment is not a bad word for Republicans. You can make investments in the urban area. I don't care the color of the child's skin because their parents pay taxes.
It
whether
does
they're
matter.
Hispanic, African Americans, Caucasians, Asians, it doesn't matter. We're all in it together. So Republicans need to roll up their sleeves in Austin and start paying attention to urban problems. So I'm happy about that. But there are pitfalls. And those pitfalls, Bridget, have to be addressed through legislative change. So my question to you is, what kind of changes is the legislature going to make? Because here's the problem in Texas. The Superintendents Association in Texas is extremely powerful in the legislature. When, 1,100 superintendents come in and say, hey, our community wants you to do this, those legislators are shaking in their boots because they know the superintendents have a big sway over the voter base in particularly rural Texas. Now, by the way, you point out a good problem. Rural Texas, generally, they love their school districts. I pay taxes, school taxes, in Kinney County, Texas. Kinney County, Texas, the poorest county in the state, and they love their school. We've had the superintendent of the Kinney County School District
back in 2020
on our program.
Yeah.
And people love their schools and their school districts and their superintendent. But here's the problem. When you go to Austin and you try to make changes to improve the urban situation, it's the rural people that say, oh, no, don't change this. So, Austin has got to get, they got to do a huddle and not change the rule book, but perhaps they ought to change the playbook and figure out how to fix El Paso, Travis, Dallas, and Houston so that kids get an education as good as the kids down in, because, the kids graduating from Kinney County, from the Brackett Independent School District, poorest county in Texas, are going to A&M. They're getting scholarships to the Naval Academy. They're going to West Point. They're getting a great education. So why can't we do that in urban areas?
Because I think the rules needs to be applied just depend of the place, it depend of the city. It cannot apply the same to everybody because if it's work, it's like a don't invent the wheel. If it's working on the rural areas, why to change that? But it needs to be changed in the urban areas. And at the end of the press conference, if you remember, Orlando, I don't know if you watched the whole thing, but I watched the whole thing. And at the end of the press conference, whoever was leading the press conference, I don't remember what is the name of that politician, he said, the only thing that this is happening, that the possibility of the TEA to taking over is because Governor Abbott knows that Houston is a blue city and Harris County is a blue city. What that has to do with it? What that has to do with it? It's like forget about the kids. It's about a party. It's not about a party. I'm telling you, I am from Colombia. I didn't grow up in this country. I didn't educate myself in this country. I never went to school in this country, only in my country. And this is the only, this is something that I have a conflict understanding why in the education is politics involved. Why people have to vote for somebody when it should be followed by somebody like you involved in the community, that somebody with the background, with a specific training. And in that case, if the TEA is trying to do or trying to train the board members.
Andrea, I can tell you why. Bridget, answer this for me. What's your school board budget?
So our school board budget, our total budget
board.
is
what's the HISD budget? What's the HISD budget?
About $2.2 billion annually.
Oh my God.
There's the answer. So the answer is, when you see, as Bridget said, officials that are hired by the board that are supposed to oversee landscaping at school districts squandering millions of dollars to their. It's about who's going to control the money. That's
Yeah.
what this has
Money.
become. Who's going to control
Exactly.
that pot?
It's about the
It's the
money.
same thing as this.
Yep.
You look at the Metropolitan Transit Authority spends $168 million on a silver line, and they tint the windows so dark so that the taxpayers can't see that nobody's riding the darn bus. It's about the money. Always has been. And it's sad,
Oh,
but
about the
I'm
money, the
answering your
contracts, the money.
I'm answering your question.
Yeah. So now let's put it in perspective because I know the HISD has a large Hispanic community. Large. I think is the largest. The kids are the majority
Majority.
are Hispanics, and many of them are
And they
Yes.
have the highest dropout rate.
correct. And the many of them, they're kids from immigrants like me that we never attend school in this country, so we don't understand many things. So let's put it in perspective for those parents and also for me, what is being the cons and the pros if TEA really take over HISD eventually? What do you guys think?
So
Especially,
if, in my opinion, Andrea, you're right. So if there is a board of managers that takes over the board for a couple of years, that are appointed board of managers comes in, they will be under the purview of what the state is offering. They will promote the offerings that the bipartisan legislators have decided were good things for kids. They will make those things happen for HISD. They will come in and manage with a certain guidelines that they have to stay in. A superintendent will be choiced based on prior history with failing districts. So they will be able to come in and do things that they were hired to do. And they hopefully, prayerfully, will be for the whole of the district, for all kids, no matter what. Like Orlando said, we have students that struggle in many different ways, but we have to educate them with foundational principles. We cannot be everything. Right now, education is counseling, it's city hall, it's a food distribution, it is everything that, but yet education is still failing, the baseline education. So how are we supposed to meet every single need of every single child? The best thing for us to do is to get kids great foundational education, and then everything else will come from that.
Well, let me go back, Bridget, to my argument that conservatives and Republicans are the majority in Texas, and we're the ones that hold conservative values, need to invest in urban areas. There's no doubt, because I live in both. Actually, I pay school district taxes in 3 school districts in Texas. Freestone County, Fairfield, Texas. Brackett Independent School District. Houston
you need to start
Wait,
adopting kids.
Wait, and if that weren't enough, I pay school district taxes in Montana. But I want to focus on Texas. Now I lost my train of thought, but it is absolutely essential that, here's what I was going to say. Republicans in Austin get wrapped around the axle when you talk about early childhood education. I've started to think about that, Bridget, and I had, again, Professor Kleinberg, because he is just an incredible base of knowledge. And he said to me one day, Orlando, that a child from a low-income family or an immigrant family starts public education with a 3,000 to 5,000 word vocabulary deficiency. And I thought to myself, so what's wrong? What's wrong with providing reading classes, when they're 3? But Republicans get apoplectic when you talk about, and I say to myself, what's wrong with investing in the urban kids? Okay, the rural kids, dad works a ranch, and mom's at home and they spend time. It's a different situation. But in urban areas, we have so many poor, we have so many immigrants, parents working 2 jobs, the kids are on their own. What's
Mhm.
wrong with early childhood education? Can someone answer that for me?
In Orlando, I agree with you. Early childhood education is pivotal in the lives of children, and it's not because good early foundational education is good because parents aren't necessarily teachers, and all teachers aren't necessarily parents. And I'm fine with giving our teachers the opportunity to do their job and do it well. The problem is, Orlando, and to your point, parents haven't been invested enough in making sure that they are being, put it this way, big education has failed to bring parents along as partners. They have failed to convey why it's important for parents to be involved in their children's education. And they have not given the tools for parents to be able to get to find out how to do the best things for their children. So parents have to be educated as well. So then you put early childhood education and Republicans are very concerned that there's going to be this indoctrination early on. And the way things are going, it won't surprise you that they're worried about that. However, we know that if we can get kids reading on grade level by 3rd grade, their chance of survival in the world it goes up astronomically. And we're so far behind that. We have kids in 5th grade. We have kids getting to high school that don't know how to read still. So to your point, Orlando, the state legislature, and again, these have been bipartisan opportunities. A lot of the rural districts are taking advantage of the opportunities that have been given to education, and they're all taking advantage of it and using it. The problem is the big school districts, i.e. Houston Independent School District, the unions and some of the others don't want those tools being used. So they push back against it at every cost because they're working in other districts really well. San Antonio's taken advantage of them. Some of these other bigger school districts are starting to take advantage of them, and it is doing amazing things for students. So there are tools, but Houston has refused. The boards and the unions have refused to take advantage of them. So I think that's the differentiation between, and to your point, here they're tools, but nobody's using them.
Yeah, and all the more perplexing why the mayor of our city would stand up and defend a failing system by saying that, well, it's changed, it's getting better. We all know, as you mentioned at the outset of this program, yes, given the COVID situation, there have been some slight improvements, but by any stretch of the imagination, I think anybody would agree that Houston's independent school district children are suffering, and it's the urban poor that are suffering. And the only way to break that cycle of poverty, and as Kleinberg said, prepare them for the economy of the 21st century, is to give them a knowledge-based opportunity to compete economically, because then everybody becomes a ward of the state. And so I just can't believe that the mayor, because economically Houston will suffer. I mean, people will go to San Antonio. People will go to Stephenville, Texas. They'll go down to Harlingen or somewhere else, and the economy of Houston will suffer.
And it already is, Orlando. Montgomery County's gaining. All these other areas outside of Houston are gaining, and they have very good outcomes for their bigger school districts as well. We just continue to go down a path that is not working on the behest of our children.
Yeah, and that's the reason, Andrea, that you see communities like Cinco Ranch, Fort Bend Independent School District. I mean, the brain drain out there.
Yeah.
The kids, For years, Bridget, when I was on the city council, I used to fight the school board because they wanted to teach children in Spanish, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" When I came to America in 1965, when I started school, I didn't speak a lick of English. Thank God they didn't have bilingual education and preserved a horrible accent for me. I had to learn English, and so you see Vietnamese children and the Indian community and kids of other countries come here and they excel. They don't know the language, but they work hard, they excel. And then you have the bureaucracy that wants to teach our kids in Spanish. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And so these are the things that the unions and the liberal groups want to posit upon the taxpayer that makes no sense. But Bridget, you're correct. I mean, you look at Montgomery County, you look at Fort Bend County, you look at Wharton County, you look at surrounding counties that are excelling and growing economically. The growth in Fort Bend County is phenomenal. Houston is losing that competitive edge to attract the youngest and the brightest. And that's sad. And it's sad, and it makes me sad to see the mayor and the leadership, try to hang on to a failing system.
I agree.
Well, Bridget,
I
what
agree.
is the next step now? What did you guys is any expectations? It's just like you guys don't know. I mean, what we can say at this point?
We have no idea. We're waiting. Every day is a long day right now. Just waiting to see. But you know what? We're going to keep on working. Right now, I have nothing else but just to keep on pressing. We'll have our board meeting Thursday night. We'll go about our work and our job. We'll keep monitoring our goals and outcomes. We'll keep asking the community for their values and their vision of what they want to see for education. We know that there are more and more and more communities and parents finally starting to ask questions, demanding that they get involvement in their children's education. And this is the best thing that can happen. That is that we're hearing communities desire great things for their kids. And so the conversations are getting better. And I think that this actually is going to turn the tide when people realize what's at stake. And so I think this is I pray that this is a great outcome for our kids in Houston. I love this city, and we have these remarkable children who all have opportunity to grow. We are growing pre-K programs across the district in areas that desire them. We are trying to make a point of getting better, higher quality curriculum in classrooms so that when they are tested on the things that are foundational knowledge base. So I applaud those opportunities, and I look forward to pressing until I know differently.
Well, Bridget, listen, we appreciate your hard work, and we know that your passion is with the children. You don't care about the politics of the board. You want to make sure that the kids get a proper education, and for that I salute you, because I know you worked hard in your campaign and you were successful, and unfortunately it comes at a very bad time. But I hope that Mike Morath and the Texas Education Agency and our state legislature and even our governor and lieutenant governor begin to focus on the issue to improve, because there are some severe pitfalls. For example, I know that the big thing right now is vouchers, public school choice, enhancing charter schools. But let me say for the record, and I think I've told you this before, Bridget, I'm a supporter of public education. I think a good public education is good for democracy. I don't think that wealthy people ought to be able to send, and that's great for them. That's a choice they can make. Great. And I'm going to be very honest. HISD was so bad at the time my daughter Aubrey was born that I, as a single dad with limited income, had to send her to a private school. That's the choice I had to make, and continue to pay property taxes to the Houston Independent School District, and I couldn't send her to a public school. I am a supporter. I am a graduate of Bel Air High School. I believe in public education because it's good for the democracy. I don't believe that we should send low-income children to underperforming schools, and then, wealthy kids to this school so they get I think every child deserves a premier education, period, end of story.
Yeah.
And that should be the goal.
Agree.
And so conservatives, we've got to get to work. We're in leadership. We can't blame, Millard House. We can't blame Sylvester Turner. Now you guys, Mike Morath, Dan Patrick, Greg Abbott, the rest of them in the Senate and the House, y'all are in charge. And the pitfall for me is, here's my concern. Vouchers are great, but when you take a Hispanic immigrant, like my parents were, who didn't have a college education, they had no clue about the education system in America. Do you think these parents understand the difficulty of choosing a good quality private school? No. No. So what's going to happen is we're going to have a bifurcated society where the parents that mom graduated from UT, dad from A&M, and they know how to pick schools, those kids are going to do well. But Juanita and Pablo, who work 2 jobs and have 3 kids, they're clueless.
And that's what...
So we got to make sure that we take care of Juanita and Pablo, at the same time. So Bridget, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Much.
Thank you so much. What an honor, and we're going to keep fighting. Thank you.
Yes.
Good for you. Thank you. God bless you.
Okay. Hope to see you soon, and we're going to continue talking to you as this story develops.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Well, I guess I always say my call to action today is to the parents that we need to...
Y dilo en español, porque los padres tienen que despertarse.
Totalmente.
Como dijo el profesor Kleinberg la semana pasada, si sus hijos quieren tener éxito y participar en la economía del siglo XXI, tienen que tener una educación. Porque el que no tiene la educación, lamentablemente no va a tener éxito. Así que dilo, ¿qué le decimos a los padres?
Mi llamado es a todos los padres, y yo que soy colombiana, que no estudié en este país y que todavía sigo tratando de entender cómo funciona el sistema educativo, el sistema legal y todo el sistema de este país, tenemos que involucrarnos. Tenemos que educarnos, y como lo dijo Bridget, los padres tenemos que educarnos. Si nosotros no nos educamos, que somos los que tenemos la primera educación en casa para nuestros hijos, entonces no podemos esperar que las escuelas o los distritos escolares hagan el trabajo que nosotros debemos hacer, porque a la final, si ellos están fallando en su trabajo, nosotros tenemos que tomar las riendas del asunto y de verdad informarnos y educarnos y tomar las decisiones importantes que son para nuestros hijos, porque si nuestros hijos no están educados, no van a ir a ningún lado y van a seguir con ese ciclo vicioso de lo cual traemos nosotros de Latinoamérica acá, y le vamos a pasar eso a los niños cuando lo que vinimos fue hacer, traerlos acá o que ellos nacieran acá para mejores oportunidades. Así que también depende el trabajo de nosotros, no solamente del gobierno, de los líderes, ni los distritos escolares.
Y también hay que informar al público que todo el mundo paga impuestos escolares.
Claro.
Que es la tasa más alta de impuestos.
Dímelo a mí.
Ustedes, si tienen
y tú
casa,
que lo pagues en 3.
Tienen 4.
4.
Si tienen hipoteca, fíjense que todos los años le quitan, tiene que usted pagar al condado, y el impuesto más alto es el impuesto de la zona escolar.
Y aunque usted esté rentando, usted dentro de la renta ya está pagando esos impuestos. Así que nosotros estamos pagando la educación, porque muchos padres, Orlando, cuando vienen acá, lo primero que dicen, ay, gracias a Dios, por lo menos no tengo que pagar la escuela. No, sí señora, sí lo estamos pagando. Aquí nada es gratis en este mundo, sí lo estamos pagando. Que no lo paguemos como lo pagamos en nuestros países, que pagamos la renta o el mortgage y luego pagamos la escuela, aparte no, sí lo estamos pagando dentro de todos los impuestos que estamos pagando.
Y lamentablemente y trágicamente lo que está pasando y la situación que tenemos en la zona escolar de Houston es que la mesa directiva nos ha estado estafando.
Claro.
Nos están robando el dinero.
Claro.
Han ido varios miembros de la mesa directiva a la prisión. Siguen
y aclarando algo, Orlando.
Y el alcalde de Houston tratando de defender el sistema.
Y aclarando, y que quiero, sabes que con este tema deberíamos hacer un programa en español, que no existe todavía y no lo han hecho, porque ya el Canal 13 lo hizo un programa especial de media hora. ayer tuve una llamada del canal en donde yo trabajé y inclusive así me dio una disputa con la reportera. No está en manos de ella, está en manos de los productores y
Sí,
el
pero no
director de
hacen nada,
noticias. No
no,
hacen
no,
nada.
no informan
Pero
al
bueno,
público.
deberíamos realmente nosotros hacer un programa de media hora especial
Y se lo vendemos
informando.
se lo vendemos a Univision.
No, yo creo que darle dinero a las redes sociales y que de verdad informemos a la comunidad. Pero para terminar, el llamado aquí, el call to action es a los padres, por favor, infórmense, por favor. Este es el futuro de sus hijos, el futuro de sus hijos y el Distrito Escolar de Houston tiene la mayoría de la población de niños latinos estudiando ahí, es decir, y muchos inmigrantes, papás inmigrantes que llegaron acá y que simplemente mandaron a sus hijos a donde les dijeron que los mandaran. Así que bueno, muy importante educarnos y también muy importante que vayan a nuestra página de internet texaslatiноconservatives.com, texaslatiноconservatives.com, para que estén no solamente informados en temas de educación, de salud, de seguridad en la frontera, del crimen, de las clases que tenemos también de liderazgo, pero también para que hagan la contribución para poder seguir haciendo todo lo que estamos haciendo. Así que, you said in English?
No, y acuérdense que la democracia aquí es el pueblo el que cuenta. No es el presidente en el DF o en México o en La Habana, Cuba o en Caracas, Venezuela. Aquí es el público que manda y la responsabilidad para educar a los niños no solamente es parte de la zona escolar, sino de los padres. Así que, well, what I'm not going to translate what the
No, just say textlatinoconservatives.com.
yeah. So
Just go to
Andrea
our
wants me to
website.
make a pitch that everything we do is based on the generosity of our donors. So please keep us on the air. Keep Leadership Latino alive. We've educated and trained hundreds of young people across Texas who are now serving in public office, whether it's city council, MUD district, community college trustees. Some have run for U.S. Congress. Some have run for the Texas Senate. Some have run for the House of Representatives. We're supporting right now a couple of candidates down in Eagle Pass, Texas. And what we're doing is building the farm team of conservatives in Texas for the future of Texas. So help us out. Go to our webpage, TexasLatinoConservatives.com. You'll see the donate tab. I don't care if you send us $5 or $50,000. We'll put it to good use. And we'll thank you eternally for your contribution. We'll see you guys next week. God bless. Take care.
Nos vemos el próximo miércoles. Chao, chao.